The single truth. The fact that universes evolve and are ever-changing reveals the single truth available to humanity. Change is the single truth. It is the only reliable and consistent happening in our universe. The single truth exposes the fragility of all other beliefs and dogmas that we hold to be real. It is the foundation on which we build the frameworks for self-actualization in the age of crisis, and helps illuminate the relationship between time, information, and experience. The single truth is perhaps the most real concept that exists and empowers individuals and the collective to reimagine themselves and the latent power they hold. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant once asked what happens when we encounter absolute knowledge. Now is our moment to choose an answer. Change is the single truth. Our awareness of the single truth calls into question the frameworks supporting local and global society. Systems like law, economics, and spirituality resist change by design. Embracing change demands a radical realignment of our individual and shared values, which in turn are encoded into the systems we surround ourselves with. It calls on us to expand our vision of the possible to more deeply align with this universal constant. The idea that something cannot be done or can never work is an absolute falsehood and must be openly treated as such. This is true for all present and future scientific, political, economic, and spiritual understandings, so long as change keeps happening. Rejecting the omnipresence of change is at best a misunderstanding and at worst, a deliberate lie. The word impossible must be understood as unachievable only within the frameworks of our current understandings and resources. Our inability to do or comprehend something now should not influence our beliefs of whether a thing can be done. The single truth teaches us that the denial of possibility is merely a projection of our own insecurities and ignorance. It has no factual bearing in a universe of complete and persistent change. So how does the single truth of change impact scientific discovery and understanding? Consider our fixed position, both as individuals and as a species on planet Earth. We understand that we exist in an informational universe. We build tools and systems to interpret and manipulate information within the world. We began to do this through an evolutionary process and have evolved into a purer form of creativity leveraging imagination. Information requires a receiver, but every receiver is a source of unique bias. Individually, we inhabit a unique set of consciousness coordinates unavailable to anyone or anything else. We are similar in many ways, but we each occupy a unique perspective within the moment. Earth is the shared focal point of all of our total intelligence. Our knowledge of the cosmos tells us we're materially insignificant compared to the observable universe. At the same time, our existence is universally significant as a source of infinite imagination. Ideas become materially real through our direction of focus and energy. We develop scientific knowledge through repetitive experimentation and demonstration of outcomes against hypotheses. We expand our understanding by asking the right questions, and if our mathematical proofs are good enough, we create new laws. Yet all laws we create draw from human experimentation, localized to Earth and our solar system. It's incorrect to believe that validating a concept here on Earth has any relevance toward universal validation. Observing consistency in relationships here on Earth doesn't mean this is true elsewhere in our galaxy, other galaxies, or the universe as a whole. To know something as truth always comes with an absoluteness of certainty. Yet science tells us that there has never been absoluteness in our universe. Our universe exists in a state of perpetual change, and we inhabit time experiences within the universe. Therefore, all human knowledge is incomplete. It lacks permanence within the scope of what we already know to be the single truth. Embracing this fact opens us up to approaching science and discovery in new ways. We question old truths and explore how they might be reshaped to fit new purposes. These philosophies are already taking hold of aspects of our scientific communities, but there is boundless possibility ahead. As we continue to redefine our understanding of individuals and systems, we reimagine what human time experience can be. The single truth brings into question whether any of our systems can ever be considered natural or universal. It is often claimed that mathematics is the language of the universe, when in reality it is a logic technology. Math is the practice of measuring interactions between quantities, structures, variables, and the change occurring between them. The idea of naturality draws from its usefulness and accuracy within the bias of humanity's time experience. We understand math to be an incredibly accurate tool from our position within the universe, but an excellent artifact is still an artifact. Claiming mathematics as a universal or natural phenomenon gives it a power it does not deserve and distances it from the single truth. The core failing of mathematics is its inability to express the immediate present. If mathematical principles could express the immediate present, the universe as we perceive it could not exist, because if the present were static enough to be measured, it would not be distinguishable from past and future. Consider also that human mathematics has been developed around powers of 10, an unsurprising evolution given our 10 fingers and 10 toes. Imagine the time experience of a yet unknown alien race whose planetary environment and biological makeup are significantly different from humanity's. Under these circumstances, we would expect the evolution of their species and systems to differ greatly from ours. In this imagined future of contact, we can assume that the species also evolved logic technologies, but the symbols and context contained within would most likely be radically different, an entire civilization emerging on sets of scientific principles, understandings, and systems about the universe completely foreign to the collected works of humanity. We might even speculate that truths understood by both parties might contradict each other. Perhaps ideas humans consider absolute and core to our perceptions might be proven incorrect or vice versa. In this instance, we unveil deeper understandings of our universe that could never be discovered from our present perspective. Ideas, concepts, and measurements would hold within them the possibility to be both true and false simultaneously, a break from our binary frameworks of reality. In an informational universe operating within the single truth of perpetual change, limitations of what is and what can be dissolve away. Although this example is an imagined future, the idea is enhanced given our understanding of quantum entanglement. Through experimentation, we have demonstrated that single photons, particles of light, can exist in multiple places at once, a discovery that is impossible under our standard laws of physics. The more we learn about the universe, the more we understand how little we know. The single truth aligns our time experience with new frameworks of meaning and understanding within our available scientific knowledge. Self-actualization in the age of crisis is a process of embracing and embedding the single truth into individual experience. Acknowledging the single truth as our primary reality allows us to shed the dogmas of the past and their influence on our frameworks of thought. We recognize that our time experience is always bound to the moment. We are always grappling with constraints of where we are versus where we seek to be. Yet, unlike our present circumstances, we never view the limitations of our circumstances as permanent or impossible to overcome. When an individual embraces the single truth, they imbue themselves with radical experimentalism. Doubts, desires, death, and dogmas give way to stillness in the moment and the clarity that comes alongside it. You are here now. Nothing is beyond reach, because everything is subject to change. When we shape our systems around the single truth, we empower ourselves to create change in alignment with the nature of our universe. We thus create a harmonizing effort to expand our ability to express ourselves in our chosen directions. The single truth of change is sacred knowledge and should be treated as such. All human history is a story of our struggle to overcome great unknowns. We have created mythos, cults, religions, and philosophies to help us navigate our struggle with meaning, yet none have come close to providing the clarity we now possess. The single truth is the foundation of self-actualization in the age of crisis, the source from which we draw meaning and understanding. It highlights perpetual change as an assurance of progress past our darkest moments and challenges beyond our best. The single truth rightfully denies the distant deities of past millennia. We reject divinity as a form of higher self after death in favor of unleashing our powers here and now, and awaken into the moment with knowledge of our power to direct the flow of change within the immediate present. It is an act of alignment with the universe itself, one that draws from our most advanced scientific understandings. To embrace the single truth is to separate oneself from the arbitrary demands of existing spiritual technologies. It is not an act of coercion that gives the option of absolute obedience or an eternal experience of suffering beyond death. The individual must choose to believe the single truth for their own sake. By embracing the single truth as real, good, and harmonious with our time experience, individuals define themselves through the direction of focus and energy in the moment. We become divine by developing a keener awareness of our powers of imagination and creation. Self-actualization is as much a practice as it is a system of meaning and value. The single truth combines with the observable vastness of the universe to produce an infinite circumstance of possibilities in relation to individual experience. Nowhere in physical nature can we observe infinity outside of the mathematical equations that point toward consecutive universes, yet it exists within each of us in the form of imagination. Imagination is an observable phenomenon within the individual time experience that can only be defined in terms of itself. It is what it is. The only definition an individual can know is the one they create. Cosmic vastness is contained within us, unmatched anywhere in nature except as the totality of universal experience. Our time experiences share the perpetual motion of all else. It is more than alignment, it is synchronicity. Our collective imaginations are the driving force in our total progression. They are also responsible for many systems of violence, cruelty, and greed. They teach us how to experience emotions, such as happiness and joy. Imagination empowers us to create ideas about what makes something good or bad, a concept that often changes through human experience. Our notions of power, value, and morality are directed by the systems we inhabit. In our immediate present, this means reinforcing society's organization around the benefit of an extreme few. Structures of law and order are not designed to progress alongside the exponential growth of our universe. They are failing and people are suffering, and it's getting worse. Now in the age of crisis, we must make a choice. These beliefs and frameworks have shaped our path to this moment, but no longer hold any power under the single truth. The single truth also highlights a universal commonality that cannot be denied. Here and now we exchange thoughts and ideas, generating new visions of what is possible. Present science has no definite views on the source of imagination, but theories exist. The challenge to overcome is how the brain can form unique concepts, events the individual has never observed or experienced, from understandings of existing objects. Take a moment and imagine an elephant wearing a green baseball cap while holding a bouquet of bright yellow sunflowers in its trunk. Likely, the majority of humanity has never personally witnessed this scenario, yet anyone with existing references to an elephant, a baseball cap, the color green, and sunflowers can conjure this image in their mind. Why is that? Neurons in the human brain develop specific firing patterns where electrical impulses are released in response to specific information. Different objects trigger different sets of neural patterns to fire off, so when we see an elephant, different areas of the brain become more active than those when we observe sunflowers. Neural fibers network neurons together and act as conduits for information exchange. Neural fibers are wrapped in an insulating fatty substance called myelin. The more insulation, the faster the signals travel down our nerve fibers. Our prefrontal cortex evolved neural fibers that reach back into the rest of our brain and are surrounded by significantly thicker myelin layers than those in other areas of the brain. The result is that signals sent from our prefrontal cortex to other areas of our brain can travel at a speed more than 100 times faster than nerve fibers with thin myelin layers. Current theories believe that this faster signal network allows for imagination. The rapid speed of information travel allows for the simultaneous merging of imagery. Consider also the complexity of the human brain in relation to the universe itself. Given our present understanding of the entirety of the universe, we know it to be roughly 27 orders of magnitude larger than the human brain. Despite this size difference, we now understand that the total number of neurons within an individual human brain is roughly the same as the number of galaxies we can presently observe in the universe. When we simulate the universe into an image and compare it to a scan of neurons within the brain, we see a striking similarity between the two. At first, we may want to write this off as a projection. The individual sees what they desire to see. However, that is not the case here. Statistical analysis shows quantitative similarities between our neural networks and the cosmos. Knowing the numerical complexity of these systems is great, but it doesn't shed light on the similarities between the brain and the universe. To understand this relationship, scientists calculated what would be the least amount of information necessary to build a computer program that can predict this relationship. The results suggest that the total number of neurons in the human brain falls in the same ballpark of the number of galaxies in the observable universe. What we can learn from this information is that a factual relationship surrounds the totality of experience and change, the single truth. Mathematical proofs demonstrate that the entire universal cosmic web has more in common with the human brain than it does with the contents of any given galaxy. The same could be said for the individual human brain, which shares a greater similarity with the entire universe than it does an individual neuron. Now we connect the dots to observe how the dual infinities of change and imagination in a finite universe align with our scientific understandings of cosmology and neurology. Our available scientific theory and practice continue to reaffirm the necessity of embracing the single truth to align our experience of being with our understanding of nature. The single truth is not necessarily incompatible with the traditional theist philosophies of the world. Technically, if an evolving universe is a creation, as a technological or biological simulation would be, then creationism is a viable argument. If the laws defining reality are constructs, then everything that springs from them is a product of intelligent design. Even in the scenario of evolutionary biology, the randomness that occurs in species mutation is subject to and defined by the frameworks governing time, experience, and space. At times, the moments we inhabit make it difficult to believe there could be intelligence guiding the process, but a simulated universe is a product of great effort and imagination. Anything the individual creates is a part of them, by extension. This is as valid for a child's artwork as it is for an engineer's tool. However, it does conflict with traditional religious philosophies about the oversoul's inaccessibility. The single truth brings the concept of God into a scope within reach of the individual. Creating is the ultimate power of a deity, and the single truth is the core of uniting humanity around its alignment with creation. Observing the recursive nature of the universe, our imaginations, and our technological trajectories helps answer why we should immerse ourselves in the pursuit of a self-actualizing society. Connecting the dots of observable infinity through evolving universes, imagination, and our powers to create highlights the source of divinity we draw upon within the moment. Infinity is something that each individual possesses that exists nowhere except with the totality of universal experience. Where our present systems create narratives of independent actors adrift in a sea of chaos, we now know that our connection with the physical universe is beyond the material. Each individual represents a small slice of the infinite, unaware of the great link, but participating in the process nonetheless. The individual time experience is that of the universe observing itself. Every happening since the initial moment of expansion of this universe, our Big Bang, results in this immediate present. The observer and the observed always represent the pinnacle of cosmological evolution and are a single sameness. Without one, the other would cease to be. We perceive our time experiences as separate from external change because we lack the foundation of understanding to observe them as one happening. The single truth provides that foundation and brings a process of individual and systemic actualization. Although the single truth may seem a far cry from many of the time experiences we inhabit now, it is not so surprising when we consider the intelligence surrounding us. Science demonstrates that humanity doesn't hold exclusivity when it comes to imagination and communication. Plants communicate and animals imagine. Even though these phenomena are relatively new to our body of knowledge, they have been occurring for hundreds of thousands of years. Earth does not contain life. It is a living planetary network of information, sharing and evolving knowledge within a time experience. It's not surprising that the earliest religious ceremonies worshipped nature, revering patterns of thought and change that we could recognize but not interpret. We can only ever be where we are, and history is full of moments where humanity redirected itself alongside new understandings of the world to transform its potential and capacity. Now is such a moment. The emergence of the single truth brings the responsibility of embracing it. We must actively be aware of and share our knowledge of the universe's perpetual state of change as the defining characteristic of our being. In an informational universe, beliefs have tremendous power in shaping individuals and societies, as evidenced by history. The frameworks presently defining us connect self and system using knowledge and information sets from time experiences long past. The single truth presents an alternative structure for thought and action that aligns collective knowledge with personal prophecy. It does not distance the individual from their present in the hope of some betterment beyond death. Instead, it connects them to the source of the divinity in the moment. Our ability to embrace the full awareness of a moment is not a shortcut to alternative futures. Rather, it is an ever-present opportunity to realign our thoughts and actions. The single truth allows us to move forward into the future without fear. Where in the past we lacked the knowledge, now we only lack the courage. To embrace the single truth is to leave behind old narratives, ideas of truth and divinity crafted long ago that conflict with present understandings of the universe. For many, these beliefs are more than just tradition, they are identity. They are the aspects of ourselves that tie us to tradition and family units. But what is an identity in active misalignment with nature? Fear and anxiety. The idea of family is fairly static when considering blood relationships. Our sharing a walk toward expiration ensures that our legal and biological family structures will remain limited. As the single truth reveals, our webs of influence extend much farther. How does remaining faithful to a spiritual technology out of alignment with known reality help transform the individual? It cannot. It is an active deterrent in embracing the latent divinity within the momentary time experience. The narratives of salvation beyond death have conditioned us for millennia, but offer no hope of a bigger life now. Self-actualization in the age of crisis is possible, but only if we are willing to create the change in ourselves and our systems necessary to manifest it. The single truth requires no believers. It simply is. It is all of us, all of our experience, and all that will come to be. Until it is not. By definition, the single truth is perpetual transformation. There may come a time when we observe changes in the speed of universal expansion and change. Perhaps a rapid deceleration will follow our incoming acceleration. In that moment, the individual and collective will confront our present challenge anew, realigning their beliefs and actions with the known state of the universe. The single truth spares nothing from change, including itself. It is a belief that rejects dogma at the outset. It is true now, and that is the reason we must act. If in the future it is not true, it should be rejected. Change is the single truth. All else is temporary. I speak out loud to remind myself that I am limitless. I am long moments of something extending well beyond our individual existences. I am here. Now. Aware of being as both embodied individual and collective whole.